business environment.
Good, good. Any other people who would like to tell me about their brief glimpse to or glance to business environment? No one is there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Anybody who had seen the business environment module?
Yes, I also enjoyed it.
You have seen it? You had a glance of it?
I have not seen any module, but
Your voice is not perfectly, absolutely audible. May I please request you to just look into the internet connectivity, because there are few noises that are coming.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Yeah. So I request you just to, if at all possible.
गुड मॉर्निंग कार्किन मैम, आप थोड़ा सा अपना कैमरा भी ठीक कीजिए, हाफ फेस दिख रहा है आपका.
Sure, ma'am.
Now
Namaste,
it's
ma'am. How are
fine.
you?
Now it's fine. Yeah.
Okay,
now
ma'am.
it's fine. Okay.
Actually, I was about to display the business environment module, so therefore
Okay,
I was
okay.
searching
That's
for it.
fine. Okay,
Namaskar.
ma'am.
Ji, ji. So students, I want that first we should know that what is there in the blocks that is given. And you know, when I talk about the structure of the syllabus, you will find that there is a variation as far as various universities are concerned with regard to one particular subject only. Because when we decide about the structure as an academician, so there are different contemporary issues that we consider, and we believe that the structure should be in the way that is not only giving them the evolution understanding, also the contemporary thing should be always included. So students should know that in the light of the contemporary things, what kind of decision they should take care of it. I have been teaching this subject for more than 11 to 12 years. And when I look to the evolution and the radical changes that have come in business environment, I see that most of the good universities are incorporating all those things in their blocks, modules, or units for the clear understanding of the students, and also to equip them with the science of environment assessment. So in the light of those environmental variables and factors which are there in the business, they should take the best possible decision. The business environment is introduced in the MBA program with an intent of giving you a clear understanding of the variables which are there in business. You know, there is a scenario which is there, and when you take personal decisions, keep those aside. But when you take business decisions, what factors you should consider? Because in business, you are not taking only at times small decisions, but there are times where you will be given a situation where big decisions would require to be taken by considering the all elements which are there. So business environment is a subject which entails and which throws light on all the environmental variables which are there in the business, and that a manager should consider or a leader should consider for the sake of making best possible decision. You know, I really want to tell you very clearly that in management, you would be always exposed to the science of the various subjects which is there, because we always say that management is having lot of its theories, lot of its philosophies that we all mentors, faculty mentors, will keep sharing with you. But what is most important, that I not only understand the science of it, but I also understand the art of applying these concepts and these principles. I hope this makes sense to all of you.
Yes, ma'am, of course.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and today, yesterday when I had a class, so in the evening, when I was conducting class for business communication, I decided to come up with a PPT which was exclusively dedicated to the understanding of the blocks. But today I have thought of starting with a very different aspect, And I thought not only to talk about the module contents, but I would try to take you towards the contents which are there for business environment. So at least you can have a little understanding in regard to business environment also. So let me start with that. Is it visible? The module is visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. I hope,
Yes.
yes, thank you for confirming this to me. When I talk about business environment, because once you are teaching one particular subject for so long, you feel very connected. You feel very, very involved into the understanding of it and involved into the teaching aspects also. So when I was going through the various modules of business environment, that is from the side of IGNOU, that how this course has been revised. So I found that a very comprehensive structure has been devised, and kind of 70 to 75% knowledge you would get out of these modules. 20, I always say, to be very honest, 20% or 25%, that depends on the management scholar also. How do you take it? Because it is more application based. And if you feel, there are few subjects in your management where you would always find yourself more connected. You would feel that this is something which I really want to take further as a matter of specialization, or this is something I connect. But business environment is a subject which is related to every subject. So this is known as one of the very fundamental subject, and if you know about it, probably you know various things which are happening in the business scenario. So in the first module, because today I have decided to give it only not more than in any of the way 15 minutes to the understanding of the blocks. The first is introduction to business environment. Okay, have you ever come across that? What kind of what are the various types of business environment? Anybody who has come across such things? Anybody who has got an idea that what is there in the business environment? No?
Ma'am, maybe suppliers, customers, competitions, etc.
Very good, Hira. Very good. These are definitely the variables that are there when you talk about the various components of business environment. Okay, let me take a very practical example from our family lives. With whom do we reside? With whom do we reside? Family members?
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
not exactly. Yes, Twinkle. And when you go in the marriage, you go with your family members, but you meet to whom? Your relatives,
Yes, ma'am.
your extended family. Okay.
On
Yes,
the
ma'am.
long distance relative we have.
Yes, the relatives that you have and extended family members also you get an exposure. And when you are going for exhibition, when you are going for some kind of fairs and all that, do you know everybody there?
No, ma'am.
No, absolutely correct. But do you feel when you are there in the exhibition and fair, they are part of that environment?
Yes.
So coming up to the answer that Hirak has given, let me tell you very clearly that there is a very close environment, then there is a broader environment, and then there is a very large environment. Getting my point? So when it
Yes.
comes to business environment, I talk and I teach students about the various variables which you have to monitor very closely, and there are factors to which you can influence, but there are factors to which I cannot influence. Like if I talk about the industrial scenario today, pandemic is one of the condition which have which has affected deeply all the business sentiments. If you even talk about the lives of the people, do you feel it was very much controllable for businesses? Businesses were able to control the pandemic?
ma'am.
Yes, Arpit, do you feel business were able to?
No, ma'am.
Ma'am, business is not. Ma'am.
Yes, pandemic was something which was beyond control of businesses. If that would have been in their reach, they would have never, I mean, considered, they would have rejected that we do not want pandemic. It was never in favor of them. It in fact showed them very tough time. The business cycle got a lot of impact because of pandemic. What I want to tell you with this dot also, because I'm giving you dots which you need to connect at your level so as to have a clear understanding that business environment is divided into internal environment and it is divided into external environment. Internal environment is something which is in my control. If I talk about employees, if I talk about the plant layout, if I talk about the productivity, if I talk about the motivation and the other things, if I talk about the vision, so yes, it is something which is beyond my control. But when I talk about external environment, I get influenced by external environment, but I cannot be very influential in controlling external environment. If you talk about the political changes, yes, I may have few opinion which might be considered by the politicians, but there may also be a possibility that whatever decision they are taking, I need to implement that. GST. How many of you are familiar with GST? Goods and Service Tax. Have you ever
Yes.
heard about it?
Global
Yes, ma'am.
trading system. Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes. Hirak has
Global
raised.
trading system.
Usman, do you want to say something? You want to participate in the session?
Yeah, it's a global trading system regarding
Okay.
embargo services,
Okay.
custom licensing. Yeah.
Okay. So Usman, I was talking about Goods and Service Tax, GST. Okay. So that's little, that's little different. GST is different. Government decided about it politically. They decided to impose it, and businessmen in the first year they were really not knowing that what to do with GST. In fact, when asked by Arun Jaitley ji also, because he was the man who introduced with GST, so he came with the concept like that. So he told, and in press, in public, he accepted that there are few things that are required to be taken care as far as GST regime was concerned. So sometimes I cannot control that because government wanted to impose that. They decided to go it further, and they took it a decision, and businesses were not knowing how to do it, when to do it, and even CAs were not very clear. And after 1 year struggle, then there were thin line which got refined and which got crystal clear in front of everyone that what they are expected to do. So again, coming back to the module, uh, just a moment. Yes, I hope it is clearly visible. The module is clearly visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So when I talk about introduction to business environment, it is business plus environment. जो business का environment है, that we are going to talk here and we need to consider. So therefore, I started with an example of family. I started with an example of internal environment and external environment, and I wanted to tell specifically to all my students, to whomsoever I am mentoring, that it is also your internal which you can control, but external you cannot control. Then there comes economic growth and development. Now I want to have a very general interaction from everyone. Do you feel India is on growth trajectory?
Yes, ma'am.
So, of course, it's growing.
It is, of course.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
what are the parameters through which you ascertain that India is towards growth? What are the parameters that you consider mostly?
In the global environment, it is the investment which comes into the country,
Very
looking
good.
at the various parameters which are conducive for somebody to conduct business in any form.
Very nice, very nice. You are absolutely correct. The investment that we have been able to attract may it be foreign institutional investors, may it be your other investment avenues also through foreign direct investment also, whatever we are in. So you are absolutely correct in those senses. You know, I was once in a conference, and we are, as such, if you talk about, you can go to the statistics which is given on various websites. Please consider the authentic sources of the websites. If you are going to WTO, World Trade Organization, or the statistics of RBI, from their website only, if you are getting the statistics and the data, that's very meaningful. So when you look to the growth of India, that's growing with a very fast pace. Why China is not growing with that fast pace? Why USA is not going with that fast pace? Why USA is not going? Why UK is not going with that fast pace? Have you ever tried to see that? Of late, we started with growth. They are already saturated with their development, and we are growing. But the problem with a developing nation and already a developed nation is the prosperity. I did a course, and there I got an exposure to look and see with a very different perspective the growth aspect. So how many of you have 5 days of working? How many of you have 5 days of working? Okay. Okay. So some of us are having 5 days of working. Some of us are not having 5 days of working. Have you ever heard about the nations who are talking about 4 days a week to work? Have you ever come across such factors?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes,
So,
Japan.
Yes. Gokul. So, do you feel they are actually developed nations?
Japan is already a developed nation, and they are trying to increase the work-life balance.
Yes.
Mainly to reduce the stress factors.
And for them, human capital is something. Human capital, they consider that is something we bank upon. And when we talk about why I'm throwing such examples again in form of dots, that we are growing. And if you look to the statistics, we are growing with a very fast pace. But the problem is that we are experiencing it. We are not talking about the various problems. The gap between the richer and poor is getting wider. When you talk about the basic amenities that should be with the person, it is not spreaded amongst the masses. हमारे यहाँ बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है. तो हम जो ग्रोथ कह रहे हैं वो कुछ लोगों की हो रही है, बहुत सारा तबका ऐसा है जिसकी ग्रोथ अभी नहीं हो पा रही है. तो हमें ये समझना होगा कि इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ और डेवलपमेंट में क्या फर्क होता है, और उसके लिए आप लोग ये जरूर समझिएगा कि there are different index. Let me clear with one example which gave me a very different insight to look at. Happiness Planet Index. Have you ever come across such index? Irak, have you come across such index? Happiness Planet Index?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So do you feel we are that happy nation?
No.
Yes. We have to talk about infant mortality rate. We have to definitely talk about the life expectancy. What is the life expectancy of an Indian?
I think for male 70.
Yeah.
For
Is
male
it?
70 or female, I think 65.
Why so? Why it is so less? Have you ever checked in that what is the life expectancy in Norway? Have you ever checked that? What is there in, Switzerland? And why?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you have you know about that, Asim?
Develop the nation per capita income.
Yes.
And employment generation, development.
Yes.
The healthcare system also influence all these.
Exactly, Hirak.
Health
You talk
education.
about life expectancy, it is the healthcare infrastructure.
Yes,
Because
ma'am.
why people are not able to survive for long? If they are living their life in anxiety, if they are working for more than required for the sake of money, because government is not supporting them. So maybe the nation is growing very fast, but when you talk about the people who are actually in the nation, then you have to take it whether they are happy in the nation or not, whether there is a peace of mind or not. Life expectancy, basic living standard things, when I do not have to struggle for medical infrastructure. US में लोग इतना टैक्स दे देते हैं इनिशियली ही कि बाद में they do not pay tax. Why? Because government says that we'll take care of your old age. They are quite. हमारे यहाँ पे इतना अच्छा टैलेंट होने के बाद भी there is a problem of brain drain. Why? Have you ever come across that there are people who always talk about brain drain?
Yes, ma'am. Brain
Why
drain.
brain drain? IIT से सब करते हैं, IIM से करते हैं, and then they are not preferring to get settled down in India. They want to leave India. Why?
The opportunities abroad where they can apply the knowledge that they have gained to the fullest, to their content for that matter, not just the money.
Not just the money, exactly. And Sunil, let me be very clear. Whenever I have read articles, when I have read, there is a significant reason in terms of social security, in terms of the political interference, the red tapeism that we have to pay bribe also. So there are so many things that they believe that maybe Indian government is giving them a lot of opportunity to study well, but they believe then afterwards some of them are really interested to serve their nation, but they mind to serve it because they feel that I'm not that very safe here, I'm not that very socially secure here, I'm not that very exposed to good environment of working. So who is responsible? Everyone is responsible. I cannot take a back foot that I am not responsible. I cannot blame entirely on my government. So there are too many things. But currently, we are growing fast, but we are not developed nation. The Indian government, the Indian citizens, and many of us need to think what can make us very developed nation. Clear to every one of you? So in this unit 2, we would be getting to know about economic growth and development. The third unit is dedicated to understanding of social, cultural, and political legal environment. This is very interesting because I'll just start with the examples only. Again, I thought to wind up in 15 minutes this particular module, but I think for making a base to the subject, again, it is important for me to throw light on some aspects. So have you observed any social cultural changes which are coming in India these days?
Ma'am, especially in the field of digitalization,
Good.
lots of things happen.
Okay, that's great. And social and cultural. Any cultural practice that was there in India in the traditional roots, but now it has changed completely? Anything that is coming to your mind?
Yes, ma'am. Child marriage.
Yeah. May I please request you to increase the volume?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Mohit.
Child marriage.
Very good, very good. And in Rajasthan, I tell you, it used to happen on Akshay Tritiya, and majorly now why in context of this only child marriage, and also I would like to talk about the girl child education. The girls have become now very, very educated. They are much more, the number is increasing day by day. The women is working. There is a great change. And there is, I also look to the culture in terms of, the way we eat. There is a different variety now. I prefer to have Italian also at times. I prefer to have Chinese also at times. Earlier, I was not having those kind of opportunities available to me. Okay, now this is all related to culture, and this is one of the example. And you must have seen that in marriages earlier there used to be choice of bright colors, yellow, red, magenta, isn't it? Have you ever observed? In South India, yes, we go with very subtle colors. It is cream, it is golden, but the other people used to wear very bright colors, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
There is now a change which is now coming, and that change is in the form of pastel shades, the light shades of clothing, and different kind of Indo-Western wear that we are now getting in the malls, or maybe. So this is again a change. Now let me talk about the social, which is driven by society. So there is an awareness amongst the society about the health issue. Earlier, people were not very particular about gym, yoga, Zumba classes, and other things. But these days, people are now sparing and making good use of their leisure time, and they are in society. We are finding that people are sparing their time for sports. They are going to gyms. They are going to healthcare centers, isn't it? So, do you find there is a change?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, of course.
Also, I would like to how open you were when you were 15 years back to ready to cook food. Ready to cook food. But now society is open for ready to cook food. Why? Women being working, women being into workforce, they have paucity of time. People have started accepting. Therefore, the MTR business has grown manifold. MTR has observed it so nicely, and there are many companies which have forayed into the ready-to-cook market. May it be paneer ki sabzi, may it be half-cooked chapati, may it be anything that is already there in the USA and UK market much before, much ages ago. But now we buy because women is going out. They are handling multiple tasks, and so they need some kind of empowerment. And these companies are looking for good alternatives. They are coming up with the solutions to the problems, the needs which are there. If I talk about 15 to 20 years back, there were very less scratch in the nation, isn't it? But now the daycare center and the schools which are providing daycare has increased immensely, and the reason is very single one: the mother is working. Are you able to understand the social cycle? The social changes are now coming because the society is accepting that women goes out, she being independent, she being very career conscious, and therefore there are few things that are required to be. So companies are able to identify and they are creating needs. Are you now understanding?
Ma'am, of course.
Yes.
Yes? Great. I hope all of you are with me.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Twinkle, I'm sure about at least 10 people, but I'm not sure about the other, 31 people. So
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, great.
We are hearing. Okay.
Great. And the fourth unit is dedicated to business ethics and corporate social responsibility. You know, Indian government was after companies that you please do corporate social responsibility, you please be involved into the CSR activities. And in India, the businessmen are so greedy that they do not want to give back to the society. I want to share a very interesting example with you. Azim Premji, when decided to give much of his part of wealth for corporate CSR activities, next day only, in the Sensex, the Wipro share fell down. See, this is what is, if somebody is doing for the nation, people feel how it got related. Let me be very clear, because people felt that he is not retaining his profit, and what he would do out of the profit, he has given a major chunk to corporate social responsibility activities, CSR activities. So now less would be there for the Wipro to reinvest into the business, and then business would not have a good future. I now quote the example of Tata Group doing fabulous in CSR activities. Anytime you can see, and they are doing wonderful job. Infosys, Mrs. Sudha Murthy ji, I have a lot of respect for that personality, and you listen to the videos, and somewhere you will ignite your mind, and you will triggered with a feeling of dedicating your efforts, energy, because it is not just about giving money. For Infosys it is definitely easy, but they are the one who did the first project of Sudha Murthy ji. Have you ever come across the first project that she undertook? Anybody who knows about it? Do you know she's an engineer by profession?
Yes.
How many of you know that she got a job opportunity to work in Tata?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Remember.
Yes. The first project that she fought for, that was Devdasi Pratha. And she was thrown back because Devdasis were never able to accept somebody coming. They felt that this lady would also not be able to do good to us. And today that Devdasi Pratha has come to a downfall. And also it is, I'm sharing with a lot of emotions. And they are running their bank today. They are running their bank. Their children are doctors. Their children are engineers. They are they have the education is now in the culture of there. And Devdasi Pratha, to a very greater extent, is now no more. She took that project. She fought for those people with the government also, and she was able to give the things, and that is all CSR. Please, anytime in MBA education, otherwise also आप interested है या नहीं है, क्योंकि मेरा ये एक सेंस बनता है, हम अपने कोलीग से भी बहुत इंस्पायर होते हैं और हमें लगता है कि नहीं, जब भी आपको टाइम मिले, आप मनी के फॉर्म में या फिर आप अपने एनर्जी से या अपने एफर्ट से जिस भी तरह आप कर पाए, हम सबको CSR एक्टिविटीज में कंट्रीब्यूट जरूर करना चाहिए, बिकॉज नेशन को सिर्फ गवर्नमेंट नहीं संभाल सकती है, आप और मैं. हमें ये सोचना चाहिए कि एक प्रॉस्पेरस नेशन के लिए, खुशहाल नेशन के लिए ओवरऑल भी हम सबको वर्क करना जरूरी है. ठीक है, चलिए. एंड बिजनेस एथिक्स is something which is related to the conduct of the business. क्या सही है, क्या गलत है, businesses को क्या करना चाहिए. Corporate social responsibility के लिए Indian government tried a lot with all the companies that please be involved into CSR activities, please be involved. Then they came up with a mandatory act in 2013. उन्होंने कहा there are 3 conditions. If you have that much profit, if you have that much turnover, if you have there is one more if you have that much market share or something like that. So there are 3 conditions. If you are falling in that category, आपको अपने प्रॉफिट का जो फंड है नेक्स्ट 3 years में CSR एक्टिविटीज की लिस्ट दे दी और वहां पे आपको करना होगा. बिजनेसेस समझ ही नहीं रहे थे कि सही क्या है और गलत क्या है. They were just into the making money, making profit, making their image, making their goodwill. And there are few groups which were doing it earlier also, and today also they are doing it. Pepsi is also one of the company, if I talk about, and I have already named Infosys. And business ethics में आपको एक simple example देती हूँ. Starbucks ने कहा कि आप अगर हमारे यहाँ पे आएंगे और आप अगर कप लेके आएंगे आपका, तो हम आपको किसी भी फॉर्म में we'll try to, या तो कूपन्स होंगे या दूसरी चीजें होंगी जिसके थ्रू हम आपको पे बैक करेंगे, क्योंकि आप अगर हमारा डिस्पोजेबल कप नहीं ले रहे हो, दैट मीन्स यू आर सेविंग एनवायरमेंट. इट इज सो गुड. Earlier, when I used to go to ATMs, I always used to, because I was into the adolescent stage, so I always used to take a paper slip कि कितना balance है. Then I realized वहाँ पे जब वो message आने लगे, warning message, that do not take, we can display the message, do not take the printout if not required. Then I made a change in my own self that yes, I should not go for a small slip of paper because there is a lot of paper that can be saved out of it. So how companies are doing, whether they are making very hazardous product which is causing damage to the environment, and what exactly are we doing? Can we go for lesser use of plastic? Can we restrict pollution? So this all comes under the study of business ethics. Then there is also one thing in the overview of Indian economy, if I talk about. So one thing which is given is Indian financial system. So India has grown manifold, as we have been talking about the same, and Indian financial system has seen radical changes. And even if I talk about share market, if I talk about insurance market, if I talk about banking system, it's been years we all have not visited our branches because we are empowered with net banking. Okay, so therefore this is something we need to understand, and we would be taking care of in the due course of time. Then in Unit 6, we would get an exposure to industrial policy framework. Similarly, in Unit 7 also, we will get an understanding to agribusiness environment, that how the agriculture is getting benefited through business, how business is getting benefited to agriculture. We, as being agriculture-based economy, is dependent on primary sector. You know from where the India gets the maximum revenue in terms of GDP?
Ma'am, from the service sector.
Very good. Absolutely correct. So though we are agricultural based economy, but if I talk about, we are getting more of the things from the service industry. But even service industry is dependent on, because we have more of farmers, the Indian farming is quite fragmented. How many of you have heard about Amul? How many of you have heard about Amul?
Yes, ma'am.
You have heard about? So the man behind Amul is Verghese Kurian, though he is no more. Yes, though he is no more. But you know what he did? It's a kind of revolution, right? It's a kind of
revolution,
yes.
cooperative that he formed of
Yes.
the farmers, let's say, and gave them an environment where they will collect the entire produce, and then gave them the market. And in the entire process, this revolution came out where we were self-sufficient.
Very true. And farmers started getting the right price for their product because there were no intermediaries. There were no intermediaries. You know, when we could do with this thing with milk, why not with agriculture? Have you ever studied how Australia is managing with its cattle business? How are they doing it? So you would find that there are good things, small things. They have done it so wonderfully. I look to India that there is an immense potential in farming. पहले हमें नहीं पता था कि एलोवेरा इतना गुणकारी है. तब तक एलोवेरा की जो फार्मिंग करते थे वो ऑलमोस्ट लोग करते ही नहीं थे. But now there is a buzzword that has come in farming that aloe vera is exceptionally good for your skin. Even if you are eating that, for your gut health also it is very good. It has got medicinal properties also. So there is a buzz that came. And farmers are now, but the problem in India is Indian economic system. We ought to have proper agricultural management. In agriculture, I'm also including the allied industries. Allied industries also, if you talk about poultry farming, if I talk about fish management. So, I'm talking about cattle management also, milk revolution also. Because Gujarat में ऐसा हो गया, राजस्थान में ऐसा हुआ क्या? गुजरात का मॉडल ही हम और कहीं कॉपी कर पाए क्या?
No.
No. So that is what I think there is much that we need to update ourselves with, that there is a lot of technology which has come. I was watching once, because coming from management field, I was watching once Shark Tank. So there are people who are, working to help, and they are coming up with machines which can help farmers and farming practices. So this way, agriculture business environment we need to understand. And when we'll be talking about this, मैं आपको बताऊंगी कि पेप्सी कैसे करती है, आईटीसी ने कैसे किया है. Have you ever heard about e-chopal, electronic chopal?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Great. So some of us have exposure about e-chopal, also electronic chopal. ITC has done a great job by introducing the concept of e-chopal, and they have created a unified system wherein farmers get to know, and there is a संचालक जहाँ वो गांवों में हर एक उसमें कियोस्क बनाते हैं, where there are computers also, where there are limited exposure to technology devices has been set up, जहाँ पे आके फार्मर्स देख सकते हैं कि उनको कितना उनकी फसल की प्राइस मिलने चाहिए, कहाँ पे सप्लाई है, कहाँ पे डिमांड है, क्या क्वालिटी है, एंड देयरफॉर दे आर डूइंग गुड जॉब. एंड सिर्फ वो अपने तक ही सीमित नहीं है, उन्होंने उसका बिजनेस भी आशीर्वाद आटा हुआ, ठीक है, देन यूजिंग दैट फ्लोर at various places, biscuits में use करना या दूसरी जगह, तो but they have benefited the nation also. So I would come up with many examples while teaching you that module, that in agribusiness environment you tend to get you will be exposed to lot many examples जहाँ पे आपको लगेगा कि companies are doing a great job. कुछ कंपनीज हैं जो पोटैटो की फार्मिंग कैसे होनी चाहिए, प्लस वो कह देती हैं कि अगर आपकी पोटैटो की फार्मिंग ऐसी होगी सो वील बी बाइंग इट, हम लेस चिप्स बनाएंगे, आपके पोटैटो से बनाएंगे, हमें ये क्वालिटी चाहिए. गेटिंग माय पॉइंट? तो अगर आज आप बात करें, हमारा बहुत स्ट्रांग हो सकता है, बहुत बिजनेस अपॉर्चुनिटीज हैं, बिजनेसेस बहुत अच्छा कर रहे हैं इस चीज में, एंड दिस इज ऑल वी आर गोइंग टू स्टडी इन ड्यू कोर्स ऑफ टाइम. Then there is a different concept which is there in block 2, that is structural reforms. In structural reforms we would be talking about new economic policy. We would also be focusing upon financial sector and fiscal sector reforms. Fiscal, do you have any idea about fiscal? We call it budget also. Fiscal is related to government acha, let me ask a very simple question, maybe question is a question, not simple and difficult. Do you know the difference between fiscal policy and monetary policy?
Fiscal policy governed by government, but monetary policy governed by RBI.
Very good, very good. And fiscal policy is your budget policy. सीतारमन सॉरी, जो हमारी फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर हैं, जब वो बजट लेके आती हैं, so that is your fiscal policy. And why we look towards her? Always we look with hope, because that decides what? That decides the momentum. जो मोमेंटम आता है, जो एक स्पेक्ट्रम, जो नॉट आई शुड से स्पेक्ट्रम बट यस, जो एक गतिशील होता है, वो देश बजट से होता है, ठीक है. हमारा इंडिया बहुत ज्यादा बदला कब के बाद से? 1991 की पॉलिसी के बाद से. क्यों? क्योंकि हमने ग्लोबलाइजेशन को एक्सेप्ट किया. अर्लियर वी वर वेरी वेरी रिजर्व, हम बहुत रिजर्व थे, वी वर वेरी वेरी मच रिजर्व, and we did not thought of opening our nation. क्यों? क्योंकि ब्रिटिश राज जो था वो बहुत problematic और complex रहा था. तो we were so horrified that we did not open our economy despite others nation took that. हमने आपको पता है why did we take the decision of 1991 that we decided to open our economy? Why did we take that decision? उस टाइम प्राइम मिनिस्टर कौन थे और फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर कौन थे?
Manmohan Singh sir was Prime Minister, Honorable
Yes,
Prime Minister.
Manmohan Singh ji was no, he was not the prime minister.
Finance
Finance
Minister.
Minister.
He was the finance minister.
Okay.
Yes, he was.
Comes with busy
Yes,
policy.
he was finance minister, and therefore he is he's an amazing economist. He's an amazing economist.
Narasimha Rao.
Yes, Narasimha Rao ji was the then prime minister, and from then the India has not stopped. From then India has not stopped because it proved to be a very great milestone in the history of India. And from 1991, we started opening with the industry. Gradually, eventually, we opened. And today, there are very restricted, there are hardly any reserve category for industries. Otherwise, most of the industries are open for privatization. Like we have not opened this IRCTC. Definitely, Indian Railways is something because we are having a monopoly in that and we can't open it. I would definitely be talking about those things later on. But yes, therefore, the economic policies are very important. Fiscal policies. अभी इंडिया ने क्या डिसाइड किया? They have decided to give मेजर 3 जो होते हैं, उन्होंने कहा कि हम हेल्थ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पे बहुत खर्च करेंगे, हम आपकी एजुकेशन पे बहुत ज्यादा खर्च करेंगे, हम हाउसिंग फैसिलिटीज पे खर्च करेंगे. फिस्कल रिफॉर्म्स में ये आया है. क्यों करेंगे हाउसिंग? इसलिए आप कभी भी गंगा घाट पे जाइए, आपको लगेगा मिजरेबल कंडीशन में लोग खाना बनाते हैं, मिजरेबल कंडीशन में लोग रहते हैं. आप और मैं शायद वो मिजरेबल कंडीशन इमेजिन भी नहीं कर सकते, सोच भी नहीं सकते, वो इतना मिजरेबल. सो हाउसिंग डेफिनेटली अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग या फ्री हाउसिंग, जो लोग बहुत ऐसी स्थिति में रह रहे हैं उनके लिए बहुत जरूरी है. गवर्नमेंट ये स्टेप ले. मेडिकल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर चेंज होना बहुत जरूरी था. आप लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी की बात करते हैं, इट इज डायरेक्टली रिलेटेड विथ मेडिकल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर. इन्फेंट मोर्टेलिटी की आप बात करते हैं, इट इज रिलेटेड टू इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर. देन आपने एजुकेशन को भी बजट दिया है, विच इज वेरी गुड बिकॉज नाउ द पॉपुलेशन इज अवेयर दैट एजुकेशन इज समथिंग अ लाइफ टाइम एम्पावरमेंट. आप किसी को डोनेशन नहीं दे सकते, लेकिन आप अगर उसको रोज पढ़ाने जा सकते हैं तो प्लीज वो करिए, वो बेटर है. सो गवर्नमेंट हैज डिसाइडेड, और गवर्नमेंट इन सब चीजों पे ही कंपनीज को कहती है कि आपको जो हमने 2013 में CSR मैंडेटरी कर दिया है, आप उसमें पैसा लगाएंगे. हमने सेक्टर्स डिफाइन कर दिया है, ऑन दीज सेक्टर्स वी वांट यू टू प्लग इन योर मनी. क्यों आप प्लग करेंगे? बिकॉज ये सेक्टर्स हैं, पहले हम इनको उठाएं, बाद में दूसरे सेक्टर्स देखेंगे. दैट इज व्हाट दे आर. सो फिस्कल पॉलिसी इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. In the recent budget and in the last budget, they have decided to focus upon education, they have decided to focus upon medical infrastructure, and last one is your medical infrastructure, education and housing facility they have decided. Then in the block 4, we about international business environment, and in this we would be talking about international financial system, balance of payment, foreign trade, sources of global financing and technological environment. Probably due to COVID, I'm talking about technological environment. Because of COVID, people were not able to visit their clients who were into USA or who were into UK or the other parts of the world. But there was a connection between them, and the connection happened because of technology. And today we cannot overlook the contribution of the technology. It has enabled us to reduce the distances. The world has become a small village. Even if people want to send their children for higher education, yes, they can send it. There is a lot of exposure which has come to Indian country, which has come to Indian students because of this change in the technological environment. And companies let me quote an example. The companies are importing good machineries from outside, India is also exporting whatever they are good at to other countries also. So international trade, the spectrum has increased a lot. कहीं भी कुछ भी होता है, यूक्रेन रशिया में हुआ, we all got impacted. And I'm telling you, the time is about to come when we all will see the indirect impacts, indirect consequences of Ukraine-Russia war. Because in times to come, we expect inflation to rise higher. अभी तो क्या होता है कि हम जैसे कोविड है, कोविड को या डिमोनेटाइजेशन हुआ या कोविड हुआ, तो हम पहले तो क्या करते हैं, वी ट्राई टू फिक्स दैट. हम उसके जो इमीडिएट कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस है उनको वी ट्राई टू फिक्स. बट लेटर ऑन व्हाट हैपेंस, लेटर ऑन we try to see that what damage that they have made and how we can overcome with those. So research keeps going on. So international environment में आजकल कहीं भी कुछ भी होता है तो दूसरे पे इम्पैक्ट आता है. इसीलिए हम इसमें आपकी यूनिट में स्पेसिफिकली जो दे रखा है वो फाइनेंस के टर्म में ज्यादा है. दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट ट्रेड ऑफ फॉरेन ट्रेड, दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट बैलेंस ऑफ पेमेंट, दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट ग्लोबल फाइनेंसिंग. आपके यहाँ पे जो दे रखा है वो फाइनेंस के उसमें ज्यादा है. बट आई विल कीप शेयरिंग माय व्यूज आल्सो दैट हाउ इट हैज बिकम अ global village. So this is about all the modules, a brief of what we are going to have a discussion over in meantime. If you have any queries, I invite those queries now. Okay, you all could understand. Also, I want to tell you very specifically that you can let me know if you want me to change my style of teaching. Reason being, it is easy for me to accommodate. We do it every year for the depending upon the batch and depending upon their demand. So we don't mind accommodating those changes. And what is my purpose and what is your purpose? That we should make a collaborative effort to enrich you with the knowledge which is there in the field of management, right?
Ma'am, I have one question, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, does this privatization of PSUs and government organizations comes under this business environment, ma'am?
Yes, it comes under business environment because we teach it under disinvestment and divestment. So disinvestment is when government is partially decided to restructure their, equity rights. So that's privatization. That is disinvestment, disintegration of investment. Mean whatever capital structure is there, earlier it was different. Government was having the major holdings, but now it has decided to give it to somebody to take over. So now that person is paying to the government, and government will now be having less right in that business. So that is disinvestment, and divestment is completely selling it off. Completely selling it off.
Is this the healthy environment to Indian economy, or?
Yes, we need to certainly consider this. Reason being, government when is not very efficient in handling everything. हमसे जो गलती हुई इंडिया में वो हमने यही किया, हमने सोचा हम करेंगे, ठीक है, और हमने इंडिपेंडेंस से लेकर 1990 तक लगा दिया कि हम ही करते रहेंगे. उस हमारे करने में हमें वो ग्लोबल एक्सपोजर ही नहीं मिला, हमें समझ ही नहीं आया कि हमें करना कैसा था या राइट वे क्या था या मैनेजमेंट क्या था. तो मैं बिल्कुल फेवर में हूँ डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट की. ये मेरी पर्सनल ओपिनियन भी है, पर्सपेक्टिव भी है, क्योंकि जब तक आप नहीं दिखाएंगे कि इतने अच्छे से हो सकता है, लोग आगे नहीं बढ़ पाएंगे. तो डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट हुआ या डाइवेस्टमेंट हुआ, ये जरूरी होता है. आपको लगता है अभी आप देखिए एयर इंडिया का हमें करना ही पड़ा, क्यों? क्योंकि सालों तक हम बजट में से देते रहे कि एयर इंडिया सुधर जाओ सुधर जाओ सुधर जाओ. They were not able to come out of it. Then finally they have decided, let us sell it. We are not going to give any budget to Air India.
Okay. Is this applicable to all sectors, madam, or we have to give some exceptions to some kind of organization?
Yes, government has policy for every sector. That to this extent they can go for divestment, to this extent if they want to go for it, पहले वो बिल पारित होता है इन लोकसभा, आपको ये करवाना होता है, and then you get permission, क्योंकि लोकसभा में representatives हैं of all Indian citizens. So you first get it approved and then you are allowed to take the decision.
Yes, okay.
Yes, ma'am. This is Ashwini speaking.
Yes, Ashwini.
You quoted about, ma'am, Air India. I would put it like that: कि the government only forced to, Air India to take the sectors or to take the route which were not profitable. Most of the routes were given to Jet Airways or private players, and same is going to be with the BSNL also.
It is not the only case, sir. Sometimes I had an experience of, boarding into the flight of Air India. When you look to the service orientation also there, you would find that बहुत differently they do it. Very differently they do it.
हाँ, आप ये कह सकते हैं कि वो सरकारी स्टाइल में काम करते हैं, बट आई वुड से कि वो एक वर्क कल्चर वाली बात हो गई. लाइक दिल्ली मेट्रो, द वर्क कल्चर इज डेवलप्ड बाय श्रीधरन साहब. जैसे श्रीधरन साहब ने एक वर्क कल्चर डेवलप कर दिया दिल्ली मेट्रो के लिए, या आरसी भार्गव साहब ने मारुति के लिए एक वर्क कल्चर डेवलप किया, which is still going on. So it depends on who takes the lead to how the particular airline or the particular
very true.
And same goes.
I agree to you. So Air India has met its own fate now. क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट ने ऐसा किया, और होता क्या है कि सर हम उनको उनकी स्थिति खराब होने के बाद भी हम उनको सपोर्ट करते रहते हैं, रादर देन टेकिंग अ रिवाइवल. हमने उनको रिवाइव करने की बजाय हम वो खराब हो रहे हैं तो उनको बस पैसा देते रहे. हमने उनके बाकी चीजें, हम रेलवे में पहली बार ऐसा हुआ था कि लालू यादव जी आए थे और उन्होंने रेलवे को प्रॉफिट में कन्वर्ट कर दिया था.
हाँ, वो इसलिए प्रॉफिट में कन्वर्ट किया. जैसे पहले क्या होता था कि रेलवे में आपको पूरा बोगी बुक करना पड़ता था टू टेक द गुड्स ना. देन ही सेड कि आप उसको पार्शियली भी बुक कर सकते हैं. तो उसमें क्या है कि द पीएस टू द मिनिस्टर वाज फ्रॉम बिहार कार्डर, एंड ही मेड दोस चेंजेस, एंड बिकॉज ऑफ दैट ओनली द मिनिस्टर वाज सक्सेसफुल.
एंड आल्सो वन थिंग दैट ही डिड, कि अगर आपका फर्स्ट क्लास एसी खाली है और अगर आपका सेकंड क्लास वाले को इफ यू कैन पे सम स्मॉल और वो वेटिंग, तो उनको शिफ्ट करिए.
Yeah, so the same thing goes in the current reservation system also. Earlier the current reservation system was not there. The current availability.
I am Ahmedabad for delivering a lecture. So
yes,
definitely government officials से ज्यादा ग्रे मैटर किसी के पास नहीं है. I tell you very clearly.
नहीं, आप अगर ये देखें कि जो रिलायंस कम्युनिकेशन भी है, मैं ये कहूंगा कि जितना डाटा आपके गवर्नमेंट के पास है, वो प्राइवेट सेक्टर का भी सोच भी नहीं सकता कि उतना एक्सपेंडिचर वो उस रिसर्च पे करे कि कहाँ कितना डेल डेंसिटी है. डेल डेंसिटी कितना टेलीफोन है. बिकॉज इनिशियली व्हेन द रिलायंस कम्युनिकेशन वाज देयर, उन्होंने किस बात पे लॉन्च किया अपना? उन्होंने कहा कि
not about just having data, it is about using data. It is about
using data
and synthesizing information in such a way which is
that you quoted about this brain drain की जो आपने बात की. ब्रेन ड्रेन भी यही है कि भाई जो आपका बेस्ट लॉट है, जो क्रीम है, that is going to the developed nations, and it is very similar to what we can say the जो डेली पब्लिक स्कूल जो 11th क्लास में अपने स्टूडेंट्स लेता है, it is very similar to the developed nations things, कि जो डेवलप्ड नेशंस आपका क्रीम ले लेते हैं, डीपीएस भी वही करता है और बाल भारती भी वही करता है, जो भी अच्छे स्कूल्स जिनको हम बोलते हैं.
आपने जो भी हमारे यहाँ के ही है.
नहीं, सुंदर पिचाई तो हमारे यहाँ के हैं. अगर वैसे देखा जाए तो विजय शेखर शर्मा भी हमारे यहाँ के हैं, पेटीएम के जो मालिक हैं. एंड उस बंदे ने ये प्रूव किया कि इफ यू फोकस ऑन योर स्ट्रेंथ्स, विजय शेखर शर्मा हु इज ओनिंग द पेटीएम, ही सेड कि अब आप देखिए कि जो बंदा अपने बी कोर्स में फ्लंक कर रहा है, बट ही वाज वेरी पैशनेट अबाउट प्रोग्रामिंग, राइट, एंड ही यूज्ड दैट पैशन कि भाई पहले उसने 197 भी जो उसकी कंपनी का नाम है, दैट इज बेस्ड ऑन द डायरेक्टरी व्हिच ही डेवलप्ड फॉर एयरटेल.
ट्रू.
एंड आफ्टर दैट उसने कहा कि मैं उसके फिर पहले डायरेक्टरी बनाऊंगा, देन ही सेड कि मैं रिंगटोन्स बनाऊंगा. एंड अल्टीमेटली when he met Jack Ma in there in Bangkok, और जहाँ पे भी कॉन्फ्रेंस में गया था, and he believed, उसने एक ही सवाल पूछा. उसने कहा कि आप ये बताइए, आप अपने पार्टनर्स को स्टेक पे रखा हुआ है या आपने सैलरी पे रखा हुआ है? तो उसने कहा कि नहीं, मैंने इतना स्टेक दिया. सो ही बिलीव्ड इन हिज कन्विक्शन. तो आप अगर किसी को पार्टनर बनाते हैं, दैट इट मींस कि यू आर ओनिंग दैट पर्सन. सैलरी पे रखते हैं, देन इट्स अ डिफरेंट पर्सपेक्टिव.
आई थिंक इंडियन गवर्नमेंट, क्योंकि आप देखिए हमारे इंडिया को बहुत ज्यादा रिवॉल्यूशनाइज किया है डिजिटल इंडिया ने. बहुत अच्छा प्लेटफॉर्म मिला है, मेक इन इंडिया. Well, these are
Yes.
the two policies which I teach in entrepreneurship also.
But make in India में भी बहुत flaws ये हैं कि people are importing the things from China and they're putting the stamp of make in India. So how to tackle that situation? And same case goes the CSR. CSR हम कहते हैं बहुत अच्छा है, but who is checking the end milestone कि भाई जो CSR में जो मैंने पैसा दिया है, actually वो quality CSR में मिली है या नहीं मिली? That is the only difference where the developing nation and developed nations.
वेरी ट्रू सर. हम लोगों का भी इसमें ये हो जाता है ना, वी आर नॉट दैट ऑनेस्ट. मतलब अगर ऐसा होगा कि CSR एक्टिविटीज में HR को दिखाना होगा तो उन्होंने एक्चुअली खर्चा 1 करोड़ का किया है, वो दिखाएंगे 1.25 करोड़ का, और जाके कोई इम्पैक्ट भी नहीं देखता है.
नहीं, आप देखेंगे जो CSR एक्टिविटी में एक्चुअल जो बंदा मॉनिटर कर रहा है, ही इज द हायर्ड टेम्परेरी मैन पावर जो फील्ड पे जाके देख रहा है. आप समझ रहे हैं बात को मेरी? मैं कह रहा हूँ कि CSR में मैं लेट्स से आई एम अ परमानेंट मेंबर ऑफ एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, राइट? मैंने एक हायर्ड मैन पावर को, जो लीज मैन पावर है, उसको वहां भेजा. आई एम गेटिंग हिज सिग्नेचर डन, आई एम गेटिंग द रिपोर्ट्स डन, आई एम फिक्सिंग हिज अकाउंटेबिलिटी ऑन दैट पर्सन, आई एम प्रिवेंटिंग माय अकाउंटेबिलिटी. मैंने नहीं देखा, वो देख के आया. So that is the gap.
That's why, you know, I think we are not, I mean, our hearts are not involved into such kind of, हम लोगों को, we all have become, और हमने money को बहुत बड़ा point बना लिया है, बहुत ज़्यादा ना. We always consider that if anybody is empowered, if anybody is socially influential, it is the way he is carrying the things at his home. I mean, उनका house कितना अच्छा है, उनकी गाड़ी कितनी अच्छी है, बहुत सारे. चलिए अपन इसको, thank you for participating and involved. अभी मुझे रोकना होगा because I have some other works also.
Yes, ma'am.
But
Thanks.
it is good to carry on with such discussions because it
Right,
always
ma'am.
gives new insight. Thank
Right,
you.
ma'am.
Anybody having any other question, I would like to take